All right. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. How are we doing on this fine, nice and cool 64-degree, sunny, breezy October 1st? I was going to do the show outside this morning, but it's a little bit too windy. I think tomorrow's wind is going to be a little bit less. So tomorrow, as long as my Ethernet cord reaches, which it should, um, we should be under the tree over by the dog's grave tomorrow for the show. I was going to do it today, but just a little bit too windy, and I just wasn't. I didn't want to blow you guys' eardrums out with wind. So finally, we have the month of hockey. We don't have to pretend anymore. September is kind of hockey. Hey, Damon, how are you doing? Oh, you're going to the game Sunday. Very nice. Anthony, good to see you. Bex, I went to the Avalanche Golden Knights preseason game last night. Saw Megna. Oh, cool. That's right. That's right. No longer. Anthony talking about Charlie Coyle and Malkin. Yeah, well, I'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah, the percentage is very high at 75 to 95% that Barkov will be out for the yeah. I would guess that 95 sounds about right. Hey, thank you, Eyes. Thank you, Bud. Thank you, Eyes. He says, as you see all these expensive contracts getting signed, just a reminder that Gustav Forsling signed an 8x575. When you think about what the Oilers paid Bouchard. So in terms of Malkin, I'm just going to bring this up here. You guys know my personal opinion is that I don't think we will, nor do I think we should do anything until and unless they know that Barkov is done for the entirety. That said, here's Malkin. And I don't really see where he's a big help. Now, maybe the Malkin of 10 years ago, really the Malkin of 15 years ago. Okay? He still did have a decent stretch here from 15, 16 to about 19, 20. But what I'm looking is at his face-off percentages. And that 46%, which is not quite 46%, is no better than most of the guys that we already have. So while it's a nice name to banter around, my interest in upgrading, if you're going to upgrade over Rodriguez, is getting a guy that's going to be better defensively and better in the face-off circle, neither of which Malkin qualify for. So that's my opinion on him. Let me blow this chat back up so I can see, because I saw somebody talking about Rodriguez is day-to-day. Yeah. So we'd end up with maybe Studnicka makes the team for a couple of weeks, right? If Erod needs a little bit of time, he's played a lot of hockey. We could go with a third line of Boquist, Samoskevich, and Studnicka. What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen? Kate says you have that kind of damage to your knee, you're out for the whole year. Yeah, there's always a chance, right? But honestly, I would be shocked, especially considering it's Barkov. They're going to be prudent. They're going to take their time. And, the difference in what his career could be if he comes back a little bit early versus even getting the whole rest of the summer off, right? You could have a completely rested and fresh Barkov at the beginning of next year. So we'll see how it all rolls out. But I just don't think Malkin is the guy. I don't think he can keep up on defense. Oh my God. So Anthony, yeah, Kaprizov. I mean, bro, 17 million is, in my opinion, I'm not talking about the market, but in terms of worth on ice versus the salary cap, like, to me, I think you were already pushing it with Draisaitl in 14, because you're still getting to the point where you're talking 20% of the cap on one guy. It's too much. It's just too much for one guy. I mean, that is Verhaeghe and Reinhart. It's less than Verhaeghe and Reinhart combined, I believe. Or maybe not. No. It's definitely less than Reinhart and Forsling combined, right? It might be less than Ekblad, Forsling, and Marchand combined. Hey Jamal, how you doing, bud? Yeah, hopefully Barkov, just take your time, right? We got this for now. You're going to the game tomorrow night? Very cool. Eyes, and that's the other thing, Lundell. Yeah, I feel good about it. I agree there, Anthony. He says, knowing Maurice, he doesn't want to screw up the third line of Lundell, Etu, and Marchand. I think he's going to do everything he can to keep those guys together. So if we have to play a couple of weeks with Samoskevich, Boquist, and Studnicka, or if you want to put Greer on that third line, if Rodriguez needs some time, it's the beginning of the season. All that really matters with this team, it's what is the health and energy level of this team come playoffs. They're not going to miss the playoffs. You know what I mean? We've just got too many guys. It would have to be a monumental, disastrous season of injuries for them to make the playoffs. Krill making more on the deal than Ovi had his entire career. Braves fan, that's what I always say about Tua. Tua makes just about every season what Marino made in his entire career. So one wild and crazy guy says, weird question. I met some of the Panthers hockey players players are rarely extremely muscular. Is it because that sort of body type would slow them down on the ice? It's a good question. So a few years ago, Barkov came into camp noticeably jacked. He had definitely put some weight on, and he was noticeably jacked. And he did not have a good start to the season. And then he got sick for like 2 weeks. And when he came back, he had slimmed up and was the old Barkov that we knew. His shot didn't look right at all. And then he got sick, lost a bunch of weight, and came back and looked great. So I believe that, yeah, same like with a pitcher. You know what I mean? You can be all muscular, muscly and jacked, but all that matters is it going to help you do your job better. Now, their legs are like bricks. But, yeah, you don't get guys that are really jacked, and it probably has something to do with flexibility a little bit. Anthony says, so you think of the likely scheme fit for the type of player if we trade for someone like Charlie Coyle? So I don't think we will, nor do I think we should trade for anybody before the beginning of the season. I just don't see it. I just don't see a need to do it before the beginning of the season. Coyle is adequate. Right now, his face-off percentage is pretty decent. That could be a help. He probably plays a style, like you said, Anthony, that's probably more suited to what we're doing. Columbus may not be in the mood to help us out, right? So, but in terms of making any deals, I wouldn't make any moves until we know, because if you bring somebody in and then Barkov comes back, you have cap issues all over again, depending on who it is. What did I see here? Connor Ingram to Edmonton. Exactly, Kate. If Edmonton can do without Gretzky, we can do without Barkov. So Connor Ingram to Edmonton. Is that right? That's interesting. I mean, his numbers are ish, right? His numbers are not. It looks like. Well, what's the deal? What did they trade? Because what are they going to do? Have 3 goalies now? Let me see. Let me check Twitter for that. Let's see what the deal is. Okay, so Friedman is saying Connor Ingram is being traded to Edmonton. Do we doesn't look like we have. Oh, somebody says Oilers management is you guys could have claimed him off waivers the other day. Oh, so he was waived and now they traded for him? Is there contractual reasons why they would do that? That's funny. So then I guess that's just the third guy, but maybe that's a guy in case they move on from Picard or Skinner during the season. Anthony says the comparison in terms of body type, I would say hockey player is kind of like a swimmer, right? They're lean toned, but they're not super jacked with a ton of muscle definition like you see in football. Yeah, sure. David, what? What did we get, David? David said my body type like a hippo, plus I like water and farther away. Yeah, Craig says they don't need anybody that's not already on the team. The room will carry the extra weight. Yeah. Right now, as long as we get through the season healthy, at most you would want to do is maybe try to upgrade over Rodriguez. But that's at most. Hey, Pacharo. Nobody. We will not be replacing Barkov. And I'm not trying to be a smartass there. We're what I just said. The only question we have is can Rodriguez give us what we need at 3C? Face-off circle. That's going to be the guy, right? That's going to be the situation. Because without Barkov, like we talked about yesterday, now we only have one guy on the roster that is typically over 50% in the circle. And so matchups, especially on the road, that could get a little bit queasy for us. So as the season progresses, can Bennett get himself over 50%? Can he work on things? Right? How does Lundell do? Is Lundell still at 50? You know, is Lundell going to hit 53 or is he going to get closer to 57, 58? A lot of questions. And so we just let it play out. Beck says Oilers might be pulling out all the stops since McDavid's weakness is now out for the season with a knee injury. Yeah, that's true, Bex. Very true. Anthony says, so the most likely trade if Barkey is out for the season and he doesn't come back till next year would be during the deadline, not something before the season. Yeah, yeah, it's exactly right. Because we just don't know. You're not going to want to fill his cap space, even if you plan on doing it. You're going to want to wait till as late as possible because you don't know what other kind of injuries are going to accumulate. You know what I mean? Like a few years ago, who did we get rid of? We traded away somebody in the forward group, and then for cap space. And then Ekblad got hurt, and we wouldn't have needed the space. Craig says Rob will step his game up. I hope so, but also he's day to day, so you just wonder, right? Vincent says, we love to trade Jaws, though, but no one in the right mind wants that thing. You're stuck. You're stuck, Vincent. It's not, I don't know what to tell you. That's John says the third line just looks so weak. I can't see Sam Miskevich thriving with those guys at all. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm totally willing to give it a shot. Don't forget Tkachuk is coming back. So at some point that'll be Tkachuk or Marchand on that right side, I would assume. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily disagree about, Rodriguez at 3C. I do think he's better suited at forward, and with the lack of, but it's a fast line, and that's what Maurice has been talking about, saying, they're hoping to use their speed to their advantage. It's just going to look a little bit different. David says, you'd think Chucky would be better at faceoffs. He has great hands and he's close to the ice. That's a really good point, David. I don't know if it's an anticipation thing, a vision thing, but some guys just have it, Beck says, the reason I like the Verhaeghe, Lundell, Reinhart line is because we did that last year and it worked very well, especially with Reinhart's goals. Again, we're going to see a ton of lineup changes during the season, and that's true. What do you guys think about Studnicka? At this point, we can keep guys if they're going to sign two-way deals. I don't think Mott's going to make the team. I think I'd rather see Studnicka get a chance. Craig says, watch some Erod tape. He's very underrated as a passer. And so is Sam Miskevich. The problem with that line is Sam Miskevich can't pass it to himself. So, but if it ends up being Rodriguez with Tkachuk and Sam Miskevich, that might be, but who knows? I still like our top nine. I don't love it to death. It's not ridiculous like our top nine was previously, but it's still very good. Anthony says, Jaws, I understand hindsight's 2020, but it feels the injuries are catching up and trading away our future for the present. It's hurting us right now when it comes to capital for the draft. Yes and no. There's a little bit to that, but then if you're able to pick up guys for basically for free that are still in there that haven't, like Forsling. Okay, Forsling is a guy. Rodriguez. You're able to identify players that are able to help you right now. Look, Lundell was draft pick. Sam Miskevich was a draft pick, so I get what you're saying. But I think for our set of circumstances, when you came right down to it, I think it was worth doing it, not just because we have two cups, but when you looked at it, you had to figure, you only had a certain amount of time where Bobrovsky was still going to be in his prime age to pull that off. You know what I mean? And so while there is a part there where you feel about, the drafts and everything, as this team gets older, and if we start getting into a situation where they're not really going to be as competitive as you would like, and you start moving guys one by one, we still do have some guys that will be able to be worth some decent picks. But they've just been working things through the, through the waiver wire and through low graded, low level trades. So far, so good, I think. I guess you're right. They can always rotate Sam Miskevich or Bokas with someone from the AHL if it looks terrible. Yeah. Yeah, for the beginning of this season, and, I got no problem with some of these young kids taking some ice time. If Rodriguez is day-to-day, there's no reason to rush him back. You know what I mean? We know what he could do. Craig says Stanika definitely has some upside. You think Gregor's looked really solid? David says probably a twitch muscle thing. Yeah, NFL term used for linemen, but applicable to faceoffs. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Thank you, Eyes. Yes, Stanika on name alone deserves a spot. David says I think we should panic and quit. So, what record do we panic at? That's a good exercise, David. What? Hold on a second. Bear with me. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I got the house fan on and it sounded like it turned off. Yeah, so what record do we panic on? I think if we get 10 games in and we're like 3-5-2. Vincent, yeah, I'm hearing voices again. I says 0-3. Well, you know, Metal says if we're just at 500 or lower by Thanksgiving. Jason says 10-16 panic. That's an interesting number. Can we panic now? I mean, maybe. Maybe. Think about it. Well, we'll look at this schedule. Let's look at this schedule now with Barkov out. Let's see here. Schedule. All right, let's share the screen. Everybody panic. Now is the time to panic. All right, let's see. So, we don't need September. September is gone. All right, here we go. All right, so we can panic if. We could panic early, actually. Let's panic early. So, you've got Chicago, Philadelphia, Ottawa, Philadelphia again. Yep. Detroit, New Jersey, Buffalo, Boston, and Pittsburgh. So that's the first 9 games. And then Vegas and the Ducks. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games in October. Okay. So games that I could accept that we would lose. One of these, that's 2. 3. Now, those are games that I can accept that we lost that game. So that would mean 7-3. Now, if we're at 5-5 because we lost one of the games to the Flyers, or we lost both of these games, or we lost to Boston, all right, that's okay. But if after those games, 1, 2, 3, if we're anything at like 4-7 after those games, then that would be a problem, because that means we're losing to teams like Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Chicago. I think 4-7, and then then I'll panic for whatever it's worth, right? Like, I'm not genuinely going to panic. but I think 4-7 would be cause for minor concern. If Rodriguez is in. If Rodriguez is out because they're giving him a break because he's going, whatever's going on with him right now. Like, even with the guys that are out, that should at least be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins. I mean, it honestly, even with the guys that are out, this should be a 7-4 start. At least 6 wins. At worst, it should be 6-4-1 or 6-5. I mean, yeah, like Colby is saying. I mean, that's pretty easy schedule. You know what I mean? There's just the one back-to-back. I mean, the Flyers twice, the Hawks, Penguins, and then you end with the Ducks. Not that the Ducks are terrible. Like, okay, if you want to wave goodbye to the Vegas game, the Ottawa game, one of the Flyers games, one of these games, that's 4. So, yeah. Vincent says, if the Panthers lose a game in October, Jaws has to retire. I already sidelined Barkov. He wants to be more important than Dangle. He's absurd. Oh. Hey, all it takes, Vincent. Maybe that's what I'll do, Vincent. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll create a GoFundMe, and the GoFundMe is pay Jaws to go away. I might do pretty well with that, actually. I might do pretty good with that. You know? I'm sure you could get Ekblad to donate some money to that. Yeah. I like your idea, Vincent. That's a good idea you got there. Jason says, I said 10-16 because it's a large enough sample size and most of the starting lineup. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's pretty good idea there, 10-16, Jason. The one says that would be a scary schedule 2 years ago. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that schedule looks a lot worse a few years ago, right? Not as much anymore. Because, yeah, you have to win opening night, no doubt. Metal says, I'd still rather lose to Pittsburgh and Anaheim than only lose to Vegas. I'll do that. Yeah. I'll bite on that one for sure. Yeah, nobody likes him except for Vegas fans. Colby, how come it's a bloodbath every time the Bruins and Panthers play? Well, you can start with the fact that the Bruins and Panthers have played 3 times in the playoffs, and the Panthers have beaten them each time. That's part of it. That series where, the original series, not the original, but the most recent original one between the two teams, where they were the President's Trophy best regular season record of all time. And, just 2 teams at that point, at least Boston then, very, very similar in styles in terms of wanting to get under your skin and get you off your game. Kate says, I don't like Vegas, but I don't hate them. Only one team in the West has that dubious honor. I actually liked Vegas. When they came in, I thought it was, well, how can I put this? I liked them until the expansion draft. And then when the expansion draft happened, was less than thrilled. But we weren't very good, so I rolled with it. And then I did curse them in the Stanley Cup final against the Capitals. And that might have been the reason why they were still so happy to beat us, because I did recaps for that Stanley Cup series. And after the first game where Vegas won, I did a recap where I said, I don't see how Washington's going to win a game. It looked like it was going to be so lopsided. I said, I don't see how the Capitals were even going to win a game. And then they never lost again. So it works. David says, I'm so oiled that before Florida had hockey, you were a Bruins fan. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, I can't say. But I was an Oilers fan before the Panthers had hockey. So there's that. I could, as much as I could be a fan without ever watching the games, I was an Oilers fan. It was fun to watch them beat the crap out of everybody on the back page of the Miami Herald. It was so different how you got your sports news back then. Colby, no, I was born and raised in Miami, a few miles from what will forever be named Joe Robbie Stadium to me. And I live in Maryland now. I got this house in 2015 because I wanted my St. Bernard Fluffy to have a good life. And he did. And so now the dogs are buried in the yard, and they'll have to kick me. They'll have to drag me kicking and screaming out of this house to take me to the asylum whenever I'm done trying to be a YouTuber. Whenever YouTube drives me crazy to the point where my brain cracks, that's when you'll see the Maryland man. I don't know what'll happen, but it'll just be Maryland man, and they'll be like, "Yep, jaw's finally cracked." Colby, no, I live on the Eastern Shore. I live on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Oh, you live in Central PA? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I live on the Eastern Shore. Middle of nowhere, just the way I like it. Nobody bothers me. So, yeah, like I said at the beginning of the show, I was going to do today's show outside, but it's just a little bit too windy. I think tomorrow's going to be better. So tomorrow, if everything goes right, we're going to be under the tree where the dogs are buried. That's where we're going to be tomorrow, and hopefully, many times after that, I do have a filter, a foam filter for the mic, but it was just way too windy today. It's like 20 miles an hour. So there's probably some good stuff headed my way. Oh, good surf headed your way. Yeah, I don't go swimming in the water on the beach this far north. It's too far north for me. The further north, well, the great whites are all over the place now. But I just stick to my river over here. For the most part, there's nothing in there that's gonna putz you around. So let's go back to that schedule. I'm gonna share the screen again, and let's just go back over the schedule now that things have changed. Did they say yet? Did Elliot Friedman say yet what the return was? I can't imagine it would be. He says there is retention here. Ingram will start at H.L. Baker's at a number that doesn't affect the Oilers' cap. So Luke Hughes and the Devils are closing in on a 7x9 extension. Let's see. He says there's retention. What was his salary? Because he had gone through waivers, right? So I'm seeing that Edmonton fans, I'm looking at Edmonton fans, they seem to be pretty happy with with getting Ingram. What do you guys think? So the schedule. Okay, come back over here. Yeah, future considerations. They saved $17 million. So how does that work? David says water probably cold, sharks in that river too if it's brackish. So yeah, there's the Sassafras River, which is about 15 minutes north of here. And because I looked it up when I first moved into the house, and so there was like one time where people caught a bull shark in the Sassafras, like back in the 40s or 50s. It was a long time ago. And I talked to all the locals, and of course, anything can happen, right? But generally speaking, all the locals said they've never seen anybody catch or bring up a shark in the waters that are on this side. For whatever reason, the sharks tend to hit the tributaries that are more on the western shore of the bay. I don't know if that's a current thing or what. But in the Sassafras, about 20 minutes away from here, they had some bull shark that was causing some damage, but a long, long time ago. Craig says goalie was really the Oilers' issue. They just coped by throwing Skinner under the bus. So now what was his contract? Is that why? Because I guess he had hit waivers. What's his contract? So he's in the last year of his contract. The cap hit is 1.95. And that's it. So So now they're going to have 3 goalies that are free agents this upcoming season. What's it? I mean, now in terms of numbers, so he's only, I say only, he's the smallest goalie at only 6'1", 218. He's not 6'8" like Cooper Black. Now, of course, he's played for Utah, so he's actually, this to me is a sign. But I think this about any NHLer. When you've been on what's now going to be your 4th NHL team in only 4 years, it just kind of makes you wonder that's a lot of teams that say, nah, no thanks. Now here for Arizona, I mean, this is decent. 291 and 907 with 6 shutouts. Last year with Utah wasn't all that pleasant. So I guess my question would be, is that really an upgrade? Case says Ingram might do quite well for Edmonton, as much as it pains me to say it. I mean, I know numbers, for goalies, it depends on the defense and the team that you're playing for, right? I understand. But so now they're going to have 3, but he starts at an AHL deal, right? So I don't think this is, I don't think it's as much as what Oilers fans might. And yesterday was on waivers. Everybody was on waivers cleared. Why wouldn't you just pick him up? I guess if you traded considerations, then you don't have to deal with his salary. That makes sense. Yeah, that can make a little bit of sense. So back to the schedule. So we went through October, right? In fact, let's just make it up as we go. So we'll count the wins. So I'm going to count 1, 2. I'm even going to be really, really conservative with this and say we split with Philly and lose to Ottawa. I'm going to be really, really dark about this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, it's hard not to get to 7 wins in October. It really is. It really is, honestly, in my head anyway. Metal says when he's what? Oh, I lost connection to my screen share audio. That's weird. I didn't think I had any screen share audio. You guys can still hear me okay, though, right? I just had a weird message from Metal says when he's on his game, he's darn good goalie, but he has reliability problems. He spent a lot of time in the player assistance program like Knight for severe OCD. Okay. I see. Well, that explains a little bit. Thank you, Metal. Okay. That explains something here. All right, so let me get back to the schedule. Okay, thank you for letting me know. They gave me a all right, so that was so let's go to November now. November. All right. So we're at 7 imaginary wins. Oh, don't knock the thing off the desk, Jaws. Jeez, I almost just knocked my whole laptop. Vincent. All right, so we're at 7 wins. We'll get 8, 9. Screw it. We'll beat Vegas this time. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 6. So that's 16 wins after November. Just making it up. I'll probably end up getting us to like 80 wins, right? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Losing streak here. 22, 23, 24, 25 wins after December. So I've got us at 25 wins. Let's see. January. Oh, you know we're winning this game. So that's 26, 27, 28, 29. I'll give us 2 of these 3. 2 of these 3. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. We'll get 1 of those. 34, 35. Let's keep it at 35. I might be being a bit dark. Let's see. 36, 37. We'll do this. 36, 37, 38. February's done. 29, 40. March. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. I might be a bit high here. That's 50, 51, How about this? I have us at 51 when we hit this streak here of Canes, Sens, and Leafs. If I'm right, and we have 51 wins at this point, these teams will be chasing us most likely or needing points for seeding. So I will say we've got 51 wins at this point. That's already 102 points plus 5 for overtime stuff. We're already at 107 points here. We sit and rest people. We lose all of these. We win one of those, and we end up with 52 wins and maybe like 109 points. That wasn't bad. That's not bad, actually. That works out pretty well. Yeah, 109 points. That is my very heavily researched, scientific, yeah. Yeah, exactly, Meadow. It's like, yeah, okay. Sounds about right. Somebody tag this. If that's what happened, I swear, if we get to that stretch of 3 games and we have 51 wins, I need to buy some lottery tickets. Sure, why not? That'd be crazy to be. That would be like 11 points more than last year, right? So, I mean, we just got to get in. That's all. We just got to get in. It's not a problem. I know some people feel like, well, we're not guaranteed. And of course you're not guaranteed. But I really feel like the extra effort that these guys are going to have to put in, we might not be in a position this year to get to our, the February swoon, the February-March swoon, where we're getting a little bit bored and everything. That might not happen because we've got the long Olympic break. So with that, coupled with the extra effort guys are going to have to put back in because Barkov's not around, and with no Tkachuk in the bidding, I'm really curious to see which one of these guys is just, going to explode. David says, my day off, so I think I'll join you on the little high front. Yeah. Vincent, if the Panthers lose a game in December, Jaws finally gets a regular job. Yeah. OnlyFans isn't a job, Vincent. Hey, Christian, who's a viable temporary option to replace Barkov? Well, I mean, we're not going to be able to look at it like replacing Barkov, right? You're just moving that Lundell line up and going to have to do things differently with the third line. Oh, I like Craig's answer. Reinhardt finally goes off and finally gets his Selke. Wouldn't that be something, though, right? Wouldn't that be something if he actually got that? That's a good call. Yeah. I might steal that for my season preview. I'll credit you, though. It's actually a pretty good idea. Trying to think of who else might. Well, the also, with having to replace Nosek, that's the other thing. And I kind of feel like that's going to end up permanent. And what I mean by that is it didn't sound Zito's energy when he was talking about him being out. It didn't sound like I would be surprised if we find out he's out for the whole season. It'd be nice to get him back, certainly, because he made a huge difference. But we could end up in a situation where that might be the upgrade we end up looking for. You know what I mean? If Cunnin doesn't really cut it, and we know Barkov's not coming back, if Rodriguez is doing a good enough job at 3C, you may see a situation where that's the move that we make, is we could go out and get, a viable 2-3C and just put him at 4C, right? But he's got to be the right type of player. So I don't really feel like, because we started the stream, people were asking about Malkin. How about Dennis Malkin? The hell with Malkin. Where's Dennis Malkin when we need him? Who remembers Dennis Malkin? You know what? That's a good exercise. This is a good exercise. Let's do this, because we need to remember where we came from. So I started this channel during the 2016-2017 season. So let's look at that team. Vincent says, so for Barkov, we get 3.8, but for Nosek, we get 7.75. Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly it. You can get their full salary up to 3.8. And then anybody that makes over 3.8, it's just 3.8. It just is what it is. So for those of you who wonder why I am the way I am, let's look at the roster. Let's look at the team. This is the year that I started the channel. All right. So we went 35, 36, and 11 with 81 points. And this was the year, where's the coach? So this was the year that Derek McKenzie was the captain, and Gallant went 11, 10, and 1. And then Rowe went 24, 26, and 10. Yikes. We were 23rd in goals for with 205 and 19th in goals against with 231. So leading scorer has got to be Barkov, right? So here's the but let's go by points. All right, so going by points, the team leader in points was Vincent Trocheck with 54 points. Then we had Barkov at 52. Jonathan Marchessault, 51. It's nice. These is 50s. Trocheck played 82 games and led the team with 54 points. And he actually, look at this, he got Selke votes. Vincent Trocheck got Selke votes. So did Barkov. He got Bing and Selke votes. So Marceau with 51 points. Yager had 46 points. Keith Yandel, 41. Riley Smith, 37. So you see why some of us were mad. Two of our top 6 points leaders from that team ended up going to Vegas. Then you got Jason Demers with 28 points. You used Jokinen with 28. Huberdeau. Now, he only played 31 games. That's the year, if you don't remember, I believe it was the last preseason game, his Achilles got sliced. The back of his leg got sliced by a skate. There's Colton Sevior with 24 points. Aaron Ekblad with 21. Mike Matheson, 17. Mark Pesic, 17 points. Love that guy. Derek McKenzie, 16. Nick Bukestad was still on the team at 14. Alexander Petrovic, 14 points. There we go. Dennis Malkin, 10 points in 47 games. Then Thomas Vanek with 10 points. Jared McCann with 7. And Michael Scarbosa, he had 7 points. Greg McKegg. Who remembers Greg McKegg? 6 points. There he is, Seth Griffith. There's the man. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. People were arguing on Twitter that he should be up top with Barkov. Then we had Sean Thornton, had 4 points. Jakob Kindle. Oh, God. Do not look up Jakob Kindle highlights. I can't see the chat, by the way, right now. Kyle Rao with 3 points. Paul Thompson. No, that's, Paul Thompson with 3. Shane Harper with 3. And then with 1 was Dylan McElrath, Ian McCoshen, Roberto Luongo had an assist. And then no points were James Reimer, Steven Camper, Mackenzie Weegar played 3 games for us that year, and Reto Berra was in goal. I'll come back to the chat here for a second. Yeah, Vincent, this was the year of the cab. Yep. Yeah, I started the channel. I want to go to schedule and results. So I was thinking about starting the channel. And then this game here. Buffalo, the 3-0 loss to Buffalo. So we started off okay. And when we lost to Pittsburgh, I said to my friends on Twitter, I said, if we lose 3 in a row, I'm going to start the channel because I was pissed. And sure enough, not only did we lose 3 in a row, but we got shut out. And so it was after that game, I started the channel here on the 30th. And, or it might actually been, this might have been an afternoon game, and I started it that day after the game. And then so we won a few games. So I had a Halloween special. And then where's Carolina? Where the hell's the Carolina game? That's when it was Carolina, right? That's when Gallant got fired. So, yeah, here it is. Here it is, November, game 22. Yeah. So that's the game that finally triggered me, was the 3-0 loss to Buffalo. That finally did me in. I don't have a Pesic jersey, but I own a Weatherman. It was sent to me. It's a gift. I like David's idea. Says I have a different take. I say we're so deep a team that we not only survive but flourish. Time for Paul Maurice to really show his ability. 3P. I like that. I do not disagree with you. Oh, the year we had 96 points. Yeah. You went to your first game, Metal. Yeah, let's go to the year with 96 points, which was, let's see. Was that 1819? Wasn't 1920. Why can't I get to 1819? They only have 1920 here. Where's here we go. Was this it? Oh wait, this is the whole NHL thing. Okay, hold on a second. Where's Florida? No, that was 98 points. So what was it? Might have been 17-18. Hold on a second. Let me just do it this way. Here we go. Yeah, this is it. Right? 96 points. Okay, here we go. So this is 17-18. Yeah. So Mackenzie Weegar was still the dude. This was Bob Bugner. I mean, the team finished 44-30-8 and just could not get in. Could not get in. So that team was a little bit better. So let's see. All right, so you still had, oh, come on with these stupid ads. Enough with the ads already. All right, so Barkov led the team with 78 points in 79 games. Then Trocheck was second with 75 points. Huberto with 69 points. Dadanoff, or as they call him now, the Donoff, 65 points. Keith Yandel was still racking up the points. 8 goals of 48 assists. Incredible. Then Bukestad was still here, 49 points. Ekblad with 38. Look at that. That's an 82-game season from Aaron Ekblad. Dang. Jamie McGinn, I remember him, 29 points. Jared McCann with 28. Mike Matheson, 27 points. Let's give him an 8x6 or whatever the hell we gave him. Colton Sevior was still around with 24. Dennis Malgin again. 51 games, 22 points. It's actually not all that bad. His faceoff percentage was bad at 43%. Mark Pesic again, 16 points. There's McKenzie with 14. Radim Vrabada, 14 points. Petrovic, 13. Connor Brickley, good dude, 12 points. Michael Haley, he was fun to watch. There's Mackenzie Weegar with 8. Frank Vetrano, never met a whistle he didn't like. Maxon Mammon, who some of us thought was going to be a good player for us. Big dude. He couldn't finish. He just had problems finishing. Then we were still rolling with Ian McCoshen and 4 points. Luongo had 2 assists that year. Henrique Hapola and Henrik Borgstrom, they only played 5 games and 4 games respectively. Owen Tippett played 7 games. Borgstrom and Tippett each had their first goals that season. Hapola did not. James Reimer had an assist. Dryden Hunt got in 11 games that year with an assist. Hari Satari, remember him? Curtis Volk, Antti Niemi, and Chase Ballsy, but Ballsy. We just called him Ballsy. Yeah, 96 points. And then here, let me come to the chat and I'll show you the schedule. Utah retained 41% on Ingram. Good grief. Dave says, so first or second year of Cat's existence, I take my girlfriend to a game. She gets picked to try and win, I forget what, by shooting a puck onto a target. She feels so bad they gave her a stuffed mascot. She comes back and says, they cheated me. I said, how? She says, they bent the end of the stick to make it tougher. She wasn't too bright, but looked great in a bikini. Good times. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so schedule and results for this year. So, because I want to give you the story of what happened here. See, what had happened was, so if you recall yesterday, I was telling a story about the dogs at the beach and how the one time they ran away and chased after the foxes, and I ran through the bushes and I'd gotten all scratched up. Well, that was this season. And they got extremely hot right around here. January 30th. They went on a heater where they just won an incredible number of games. They won 4, then they lost 1, they won 3, they lost a couple, they won 6, and then we just kept winning. And that was the streak that got us close to getting into the playoffs, all those wins. Well, this was when I ran through the bushes. And so I decided to take a game off, or maybe 2 games off, because I was all cut up. And then they just kept winning. And so I stayed away. And then I did not come back, I believe, until when the winning streak was over. They had won 6 games. I believe this is close to accurate. They had won those games, and then I think I came back somewhere around the first week of March here. And then, of course, they started losing some games, and then they won at the end, but we just couldn't get in. We won our last 5, but we had just lost some games here where it was just rough. You lose to the Bruins 5-1, Senators 3-2, Leafs 4-3. We just lost some games that's unfortunate. That team might have done halfway decent had they made the playoffs. David says, I bet they pooped first dogs all poop on them. Yeah, that's the first thing they do, right? But you just cover it up with the sand. You know what I mean? They just do their business and you just cover it up with the sand. Especially if we got there like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, because there would have already been some dogs there before us. Good times. I wonder how accurate that date is. Let me go back to into my YouTube here and just see if that when I left and when I came back. All right, so we'll do this in reverse order. Because I wasn't, I was just putzing around with the channel at that point. I wasn't necessarily, I didn't really think about, making it, a career or anything like that. It never crossed my mind at that point. So when is this? Let's see. This is April. So that would have been, that's the 18-19 season, right? Or no, that's the 17-18 season. That was 96. So that would have been, when I left, would have been somewhere in January of 17. Okay. I want to see if I can find that video of, that would have been January of 18, right? That's December. Yeah, it would have been January of 18. I want to see if because I have a video with the dogs running away. So that I want to see if I can find it, because we were filming at the beach, and then Kyle says, "Oh, the Foxes." Yep, here it is. Here it is, January 7th, 2018. And then I didn't come back to do hockey again until March 10th. So I'm going to put this up. This is let me share this screen. This is the date that they ran away. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, yeah. So here they go. Hold on a second. I can get it here for you guys. So you'll see it says tonight's recap will be very short. So that was the last day I was going to do it, but then here we go. Come on, buddy. Oh, Fluffy. Oh, Fluffy. Come on. This should be fun. Hey, it's fun. Yeah, see, he can't get to those. That's pretty awesome. There he is. He's ignoring the geese. Yep. Oh, shit! No, shit! Shit! No, come here! We lost again. That's the recap. Yep. That was your reaction when you saw the Barkov news, right? Hey, Kane's Cats. It's still going. I don't know if I would define it as well, but it's still going. We still sell stuff. Uh, you know, um, you got to have money to buy stuff to resell. So we sell a lot of our old stuff that we have. A lot of pictures, a lot of documents and stuff. We occasionally we pay our bills. That's what we do around here. So yeah, so my memory served me halfway decent. So that was the 2017. So yeah, I stopped. That was the when would that have been? The 10th, 12th. That would have been, I guess, no, January 7th. We lost to Columbus. Well, we got a point. And then I didn't come back until March. I came back March 10th, the Rangers. So that's when I had come back. So we were 34, 25, and 7 when I came back, and we finished 44, 30, and 8. So we didn't do all that terrible because of that last 5-game win streak, but good times were had by all. Good times were had by all. Luke Hughes is signing with the Devils. Yeah, I think I had seen that. Thank you, Colby. Kane says, I think for us eBay sellers, I think this Q4 could be good for us. Our money's losing value, and that means overseas people will spend good money. Yeah, as long as the shipping. Right now, like I'm having problems shipping stuff to Canada because they're on strike. The shipping costs have just gone through the roof for so many people now. David says if the YouTube thing doesn't work out, it could always be a dog trainer. Yeah, that's my advertise. That's my advertisement, right? Come to the Jaws School of Training. It actually wouldn't be a bad skit video though. Yeah. Yeah, they ran a couple 100 yards, but they did stop at the woods. Hey Trey, Jaws needs the aliens to abduct him again so I can restock, right? I know, man. Anyone want a 21 RAV4? How many miles on it? How many miles on it, Trey? Kane says, it's gotten to the point where only the playoffs matter, which is crazy because 45 years ago, everything mattered. Every shift, every play in the regular season. I agree. I'm going to be listed as your dog trainer on Dusty's service dog paperwork. Yeah, good point, Davis. Is actually it's to the point where only a cup matters. I mean, we're playing with all the house money now. So to be honest with you, like I've joked about before, the thing that I'm more concerned about than anything is the abuse that Kyle and I are going to take if we stream games after the Panthers have been eliminated in the playoffs. It will get abusive, I'm sure. Can you imagine? Like on a regular night after we beat the Leafs, I was having to block 2 to 4 Leaf fans, and we beat them. Can you imagine if Toronto beat us in the playoffs? And then Kyle and I were streaming the next series? Like, it could get ugly. We've just become a serious wagon, the biggest wagon this town has ever seen, that's for sure. And for us loyal people, you in 2014, it's good to see. We've lost our underdog role, which makes us sad. Don't you think Barkov being out helps us out a little bit with that, though? Like it does bring some of the extra motivation back in, don't you think? Trey, 200,000, but it's a Toyota, right? You got that right, David. You think there's more Panthers fans down there with Dolphin fans? The Dolphin fans are what's left of us. It's like when you're in that abusive relationship that you're just staying for the kids, right? You're just staying for the kids at this point. So, and now that Tyreek is busted, it's going to be a clean house at some point. But I will say this, these guys still seem to be playing for McDaniel. Like the team has not quit on him. That's for sure. Exactly, David. Real says Leaf fans on Reddit are insane, brigading the Panthers subreddit, even though others weren't as bad during the finals. No, we haven't had really any problems with any Oilers fans. Yeah, Toyotas hold their value well, yeah. Dang. Mike Morgan says, wait, the biggest wagon this town has ever seen? So Mike says, I don't think so. I love my Cats, but I think the early 70s undefeated Dolphins were a bigger deal. So the argument certainly is valid. I can see both sides of that. So I'm thinking about it. It's very different. I mean, different sports, different times, right? So it's hard to really say for sure. Now, in terms of, and it's really hard to compare because with no social media and, there was only football back then. You know what I mean? I was just a baby, so I don't really remember, how things were in terms of, going to the grocery store and everybody talking about the Dolphins. I remember the 80s, though, when Marino was doing well, you go to the grocery store. That's all. It's all we had, though. Yeah, exactly, David. It's a wagon because they're not only champs, but really decent humans. Yeah, I get what Mike is saying. It wasn't just one season. It was 3 Super Bowls in a row. And 2 of them they won, and that's what put sports in the map here in Miami. It's true. Yeah, exactly, Real. They have not given up. Finns have to keep playing because the Hurricanes are actually good again. When's their next game? I don't want to jinx them by watching, though. Cats Kane says the Panthers need to continue the success, not win titles, but consistent playoff team is what will make them a top 1-2 team in the market. Saturday against FSU. I won't read that out loud, though, Canes. I don't want to jinx. Anybody. I won't read that out loud. Real says FSU going to get the upset. What is my now? I know the Hurricanes are number 3, but can they legitimately win? Can they legitimately win the whole thing? Because sometimes teams get ranked a certain way. No, the only thing I'm talking about, Real, is what you said. FSU going to get the upset. I ain't going to make that happen. David says, I wear my Fins hat every day. I still love the team, but it isn't a Super Bowl winning team. Yeah, unfortunately. It's a whole rebuild waiting to happen. But now we got to do the rebuild without getting anything out of Tyreek Hill. Noel's defense sucks, but so does Carson Beck. I had some people telling me he was good, though. I don't know. I don't watch. Ohio State and Oregon are super good. Is there a possibility that with the way the schedules are laid out, because didn't the team get shafted a couple of years ago in college football with the polls where people felt they had the right to play for the championship and then they got shafted? Could that happen? I'll be right back. I'll be right back in 1 minute. Okay. Here it says we have a huge O line, so we run a lot. I like to see Oregon, Ohio State playing the entire. It's all changed now. Top 12 go to a playoff. No way the Canes get shut out. Okay. All right. Boy, I remember as a kid, man, you got to wake up in the morning and check the paper and see what the AP and UPI polls said. And that was it. What they said was what it was. It was crazy. You know, you just had no real measurement. I mean, you knew who the best teams were, but it was just such a weird way to determine who the champs were. Because you ended up with some situations where, you know, you wouldn't have minded seeing two teams play against each other. The playoffs kind of fixed the shaft, right? Yeah, Trace, this 64 team football tournament, right? So you say your point is that Ohio State and Oregon don't really have any competition. So then it should be one of them. Ohio State's been good for forever. Oregon has been, I haven't watched college football in so long, though. So it is what it is. I don't want to jinx them. You think it's the biggest 6 conference champs plus the next 6 highest ranked teams. Okay, so it's like a Frankenstein type of system. That's interesting. Didn't they pass a thing somewhere down the road previously? Can the college players make money from endorsements? Didn't they loosen the regulations somewhere along the way here recently? It just never. I mean, I remember there would be all these scandals, like kids accepting, you know, T-shirts and getting disqualified for being in college football. It was crazy. Oh, they get paid now. Shows you what I know. Like actual paid for playing or like paid for the sponsorships? I'm right here, Lele. She's looking for me. She ain't looking to find Daddy. She's such a good kid. It's fun getting her going outside. I got to start filming some of her stuff. She runs straight at me, and she's got these. She like smiles when she's running. It's kind of funny. I see. Now they just pay them in real life stuff mostly. Got you. Got you. Yeah, I mean, there was so many controversies back in the day with guys, you know, this agent or whatever paid for the kid to go to dinner and name, image, likeness. Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, they deserve to. I mean, you know, a lot of these kids are still good ball players, but if you don't make it to the NFL, you know, you kind of beat up your body just for that hope. Hey, Axel, birthday and hockey month. Happy birthday. Not yet, but soon, right? Free shoes. Yeah. There was some stupid stuff that went on when back in the 80s and 90s. And everybody would act all indignant. Oh my God, it's so unethical that this kid accepted a dinner with this agent. It gives them an advantage and everything. Meanwhile, the kids are eating freaking ramen noodles. It's all changed now with all the money that's bet on things. Everything has just changed. Hey, Matthew says, I agree. Just move everyone up and see how we do. Yeah. Yeah, we just, for now, we may as well, right? You know, especially like we just looked at the schedule. It's not so bad, you know. So what did we do? We looked at 16-17 and 17-18. But what about, let's see. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back. Let's go to the deep, deep, deep dark days. Let's go to the 2002-2003 Florida Panthers. Let's go here. You guys want to talk about, you guys want to, hey, man, I appreciate that, brother. So you want to talk about the depths of despair. I present to you the 2002-2003 Florida Panthers roster and statistics. 70 points. Mike Keenan, 24, 36, and 13 and 9. Remember, that's when it was ties. 29th in goals for with 176. 24th in goals against at 237. Preseason odds to win the Stanley Cup were plus 15,000. So let's look and see what we got here. Ali Jokinen, 65 points. Victor Kozlov, 56. Kristen Elias, 43. Marcus Nielsen, 34. Jeez, look at these names. Novos with 27. Valerie Bure with 26 points, only 46 games. Sandis had 26. Hagman, 23. So there's Stephen Weiss, 77 games, 21 points. Bednar had 18 points. Bouwmeester, 16 points. Cullen with 12. Jeez, I mean, this is wild. Is there anybody that was like a rookie in this season where it like came? Well, there's Worrell with 5 points. Anybody else that was eventually noticeable? There's Luongo, no points. That's it. I mean, that is a brutal team. I mean, past Worrell, you got Ward, Toms, Ritchie, Mezzo, Lanoff, Kolnick. It's just bad. This is so. And then Bomeister had Calder votes, and Sandis had some Norris votes. All-Star game. Jokinen All-Star game. But I think that was back when somebody from the team had to go. And the time on ice for these guys, Yushkevich was playing almost 24 minutes a night. Sandis was playing 27 minutes a night. Jeez. That's wild. Look at that time on ice. Holy crap. That's bad. What I say? Oli? I get it mixed up. I just call him Jokinen. You almost moved it. What did Spaceman say? Hold on. Hey, Spaceman, you're in Madrid, huh? That's cool. It's 6:32. That's cool. Fossey says, Bussy looked good. I hate to say he makes Black look tradable. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Black's got some development to do. There's no doubt about that. He's got some development to do. So the question is about Boone Jenner. Hold on a second. Let me come back to it. Stop sharing that. Dante says, hey, Jaws, how would you feel about the Panthers potentially going after Boone Jenner to replace Sasha for the season? Any of these guys that we'd be looking at, what we're looking at is if you look at it in a different perspective, we're not trying to replace Barkov. We're trying to replace Lundell. So you're going to be Bennett and Lundell pretty much. Oh, we're sharing that tab now? How the hell did it share that tab? Yeah, so this is Boone Jenner. It's going to be Lundell, Bennett, or Bennett, Lundell pretty much as a guarantee, 1-2. So when you start looking to replace guys, you're looking at possibly trading for guys and everything. Who we're looking to replace is Lundell and the production that we got out of that third line. So a guy like Jenner, no real complaints, right? Now, was this an injury last year where he only played the 26 games? Face-off percentage is important, though. Now, his face-off percentages are pretty good here. His age is decent. If he's on the last year of his contract, I'm assuming that's why people were talking about him. If he can get us into this 54%, 55%, was he hurt last year? He dropped off a little bit. But he's only 26 too. Right, and it's only the preseason, yeah. Kuznetsov, I think we looked at him. I think the thing with him, I'm going to pass on Kuznetsov because the first thing I'm looking at is face-off percentage. So when I look at Kuznetsov, or his name I can't pronounce, 44, 45, 48, 44. We already got that with Rodriguez, right? So to me, if you're going to target a guy, if you know Barkov's not coming back, to me, the number one consideration is going to be face-offs. Now, Jenner, if he can continue to be over 50%, then yeah, what's his contract? That's a good name for sure. So he's in the last year of his deal. He's got a 3.75 cap hit. So we could exactly fit him in. Well, if Barkov's out, we get the full amount. But that's definitely a good name. No questions asked. Now, does he have – he's got a modified no trade clause, but I can't imagine he would not want to go to Florida, right? So, yeah, that's a good name. That's a good name. What might be breaking news, Colin? Let me hear. Let's hang out. Panthers said Tim Reynolds reports the following. Eric Spoelstra praised Barkov in his character, but also said Barkov told Spo that he'll be back in 5 to 6 months. This is Tim Reynolds. Let's see. Spo raving about Barkov's character. He moves a locker room because of what he's about. He told Spo he'd be back in 5 to 6 months. So Barkov was actually at Heat practice today. So I'll retweet that. Let's put Fluffy as the picture there, though. Let's see. Where's my Fluffy smile? Now that is definitely interesting. So yeah, no, now so let's just take a breath. I don't necessarily feel like they'd rush him. I'm not a doctor, right? But we all know we've heard some pretty good stuff about the stem cell stuff. We also don't know the level of which the ligaments were torn. You know what I mean? Now that seems like it's very interesting that sequence of events, because I think we all know Barkov isn't going to say anything unless, like, Barkov's not, he's not Marchand, right? He's not going to be out there trolling anybody or cracking jokes or anything like that. Like, that's very, very interesting, to say the least. Dante says even if Barkov is back in 5 to 6 months, Boone Jenner would still be a solid addition. We don't have the cap space. That's the problem, Dante. Because when Kachuk comes back, if Barkov comes back, we don't have any cap space to add anybody. We actually would be over. Real says, but then we won't get Crosby, right? Barkov practiced today. David says, listen, I hate to be that guy, but someone will target him once he's back, so we must be sure he's 100%. And so, yeah, I mean, I no disagreement there, but I guess what I was trying to say was, like, I think we would trust Zito to not throw him out there unless, the doctors were 1,000,000,000% sure. you know? It just seems like something Barkov wouldn't say unless they kind of knew it was true, right? Which is still interesting because that still puts us in the position of, don't forget, when Barkov and Tkachuk are on the roster, we are way over the cap. So, I mean, it still puts us, of course, we'd love them to come back, but then we'd be right back to where we were at the beginning of the season, wondering who are we going to move to fit under the cap. Now, you could put somebody on LTIR, but even then, your playoff roster, your game playoff roster has to fit under the cap. So that's wild that Barkov would. I mean, I don't think Spoelstra would make it up, right? Spaceman says, I wore my Panthers jacket here representing the team. I saw a traveling guy in a Blue Jays cap, who I assume is a Leafs fan, saying we're taking it next year. Yeah, that's probably it. 5 to 6 months would have been. Yes, Fossey says it must not have been fully torn if it's 5 to 6 months. Right. I mean, that makes only logical sense, right? Spaceman says, I said this back to him. Talk to us when you get out of the second round. Jaws, no, he was at heat practice today. I must have said that too quickly. He was at heat practice today. So that's why he was talking to Spo, I guess. Like 8.5 million that's going up, David. Mike, yeah, I must have said it too fast. He was at heat practice today. Don says, I find it hard to believe that a Miami Heat head coach would say something about Barkov's recovery timeline. The Panthers organizations run like a mafia and don't ever talk outside the organization. I know. It's very, very interesting, to say the least. I retweeted it just for the hell of it, just to get people's ire up, I guess. Hey, Vanish. He says, hope all is well. Biggest thing I'll be paying attention to is Bobrovsky. 2 years ago, arguably the best goalie. Last year, notably worse. If he declines anymore, we could be in trouble. I mean, regular season, sure, he wasn't as lit. You know what I mean? But we'll see. Real says maybe Barkov was still drunk from all the celebrating, right? Sadly, Barkov probably I did crack the joke, though. I did crack the joke that the Panthers lost their best player and the Dolphins lost their best player. So who was going to be the guy that the Heat lost? So maybe Barkov went to practice just to undo the juju, right? I'm going to the Reynolds tweet here and see, that's wild. He said there will be a large reassignment of players today and tomorrow. Panthers expected to go close to their full lineup for the final 2 preseason games. Okay. All right. It says, I mean, I can't imagine that Bill Zito's thrilled about that. I can't imagine that Zito is thrilled about that. That's weird. Sorry, Mike. Sorry about that, man. Dante says maybe 5 to 6 months in Finland is equivalent to 7 or 8 months here in the United States. That too. Craig says probably just speculation to get clicks. Yeah, he would still miss the Olympics, sure. I don't know. I mean, I generally speaking take what these guys say with a grain of salt when they say I'm hearing. You know what I mean? But he's saying that Coach Spo said it. So it's definitely going to start a conversation. I agree with you, Mike. Says I don't like players in the NHL going and playing in the Olympics anyway. Yeah, 100% agree with you there. Dave says Bob is so great at staying focused and making the big saves. Even last year, easily the best big game goalie. When you need a save, there's nobody else I would trust more. I don't know if he is as perfectly lights out as Vasilevsky was, but 2 cups. 2 times. 2 times. That is wild. He told Spo he'd be back in 5 to 6 months. All right, man. You say so. That's going to be okay. So, that was yesterday's line. I see. On Twitter, see if anything else popped up, but no. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how it rolls. Dante says I saw a video on NHL Network that Nosek will be back in 1 or 2 months. I don't know how they would be able to speculate that. Yeah, I mean Zito sounded he was like it's going to be at least several months, I believe is how he put it. So, Real says in Finland, you don't heal the knee heals you. I mean, Nosek being back would be nice too, right? Yeah, it's a shame, David, that we won't have Russia in the Olympics. Of course, at this rate, we might be at war with Russia by then. Sauna heals the knee. I mean, 5 to 6 months, that'd be crazy. But then again, we just don't know what's out there in terms of treatments. That would be October, November, December, January, February, March. No. October, November, December, January, February, March. That's like the end of March. That's like round 1. That's like him coming in and playing 5 games before the end of the season and going out there. And that's crazy. I just wonder if it just wasn't that bad of a tear. Trey says, y'all, he ain't rushing back a knee injury just to be placed in the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially when teams have already cheap shot him the last 2 years. He's gone. Hey, we're just going by that's what Dante says. Maybe Sasha really did start drinking Ekblad's special Kool-Aid. Right? Look, the way I view it is I'm never surprised at anything I see anymore. The timetable on a lot of these injuries has completely changed with technology and everything else. Not going to be shocked either way. But it's certainly, he wouldn't have said it if there wasn't at least a possibility. Mike says, I'm guessing when Sasha said that, it might have just been an example of just how bad Barkov wants to be back in the game. Oh, got you, Trey. Okay. All right, David. Appreciate you, bud. No, we can't panic now. Now we're going to panic. We're going to positively panic, David. We're going to panic because Barkov will be back in 6 months. 5 to 6 months. So, like, somebody's going to ask the question, right? And so either Spo is making shit up, which is not a good look, or Barkov really told him that. But maybe what Barkov says is, well, if a miracle happens, I'll be back in 5 to 6 months. Maybe it's being reported kind of like the media does, where they take a sentence and they cut off the first half of it to remove all context, and then they just play the second half of the sentence and make people think everybody's Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs because they left out the first part of the sentence. Maybe Barkov said, yeah, if there's a miracle and I grow a new leg, I'll be back in 5 to 6 months. And then they report Barkov said he'd be back in 5 to 6 months. Could be that, right? He definitely could have done that. Honestly, that makes more sense than Barkov actually telling him he'd be back in 5 to 6 months. You really think about it, it actually makes more sense that way. You know? So, I don't know. We'll have to see how it all. That's very, very. When's the next time Maurice talks to the media? Right? When is the next time that they media? Yeah, of course, everybody's just retweeting it now, right? Let's see. Somebody's going to have to ask Bill a question. We need one of our media guys on this instantly. Yeah, maybe. And now somebody retweeted it, says, back to skating in 5 to 6 months, I can see, but playing on the other hand. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe he says, hey, when are you going to be back on the ice? 5 to 6 months. Could have been that way, too. Greg says, I'll be the guy that wants Barkov back next season and 100% healthy. Yeah, no disagreement. Yeah, I think Maurice will talk to the media tomorrow. I think they already did their thing today. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, everybody, I got to roll. I got to get some lunch. If something happens, if they change their mind and they want to be forthcoming about it, maybe I'll make a video. We'll see. Very curious to see the answers to that question. Trey says Barkov is week to week. Oh my, yeah. Well, around here that is week to week, right? You know, yeah. So, all right, everybody, I'm gonna roll. Go get some food, and we should have something coming out here in the next day or two. I've been preparing something, and we should be getting close to having it be ready. So it will be for your viewing, enjoyable pleasure. I can't wait for it to come out. So with that said, appreciate all of the support, and I shall see you mañana.